No pun intended. Hi, everybody. We just came out of an executive session,
You're gonna make a motion to come out of it.
so I need somebody to make a motion to go out of executive session.
moved.
To work session. Okay, we have a motion. All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? Okay.
That's okay. Hold
Um,
on.
So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the October 4th, 2016 Town Board of the Town of Ossining Work Session. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Are we doing, we'll go right into announcements, or am I, okay, so I'm just gonna start with a few announcements. Just wanted to tell everybody I was very excited this morning to participate with my fellow council member, Councilwoman Jeffrey, sorry. I was excited to participate in the Campaign for Fiscal Equity's march from New York City to Albany to bring attention to the shortfall in many school budgets as a result of increasing enrollments, but a freeze on state spending, which was supposed to be in line with a sound basic education for all students, but hasn't quite kept up with that. School districts like Ossining's that have seen growing enrollments, but whose aid was fixed and frozen before those enrollments grew, are in a category that is most harmed by the freeze and the tax cap, which also does not account for enrollment increases. The school has seen an increase of over 750 students in the last 8 years and is struggling to find space and resources for everyone. I joined a group of educators, parents, students, and elected officials this morning to encourage everyone to have their voices heard by letting Albany know that these schools need more money to be part of the education budget in Albany to help out those schools who are struggling to keep up with the enrollment increases. This Thursday, October 6th, we have an incredible show of support from local organizations and businesses for for New York's Organ Donor Enrollment Day, with participation from, and I have a list here that I think has gotten covered up someplace. No, it was in my pile, and I had it organized, and now it's disorganized, but I have a long list of people who are involved in helping out with Organ Donor Enrollment Day on Thursday, and here it is. And that includes Village Mayor Victoria Garrity, New York State Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff, New York State Senator David Carlucci. Live On New York is spearheading this campaign, and they will have a representative, Robert Lane, who is the Vice President for Development and External Relations for Phelps Memorial Hospital, County Legislator Catherine Borgia, the Ossining School District, Ossining Open Door, the Ossining Public Library, Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Ossining Police, Lions Club, and Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce have all agreed to offer volunteers to help drive enrollment for our organ registry in the state of New York. We're currently 50 out of 50 states in the nation with the lowest enrolled registry, and we need to change that. So we're competing with lots of other municipalities to get the most enrollments. We encourage you to go to any of these places this Thursday if you're not already signed up as an organ donor. Ossining Community Center from 9 to 3. The Ossining Public Library is going to be, I think, 9 to 9. Landmark Diner, Dee Dee's Diner, Walgreens, Ossining Public Library, which I already said, Ossining Train Station from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., Club Fit from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 5 to 7 p.m., Wobble Cafe from 5 to 7 p.m., St. Anne's Church from 6 to 8 p.m. All of those places are partnering with us to try to get as many people as we can enrolled for this very, very critical need. We have 120,000 people in the U.S. who are on waiting lists, and 10,000 of them are in New York State, and there are just not enough people to go around to help them out. And you can save 8 lives with one person's organ donation. So Next, this week and weekend, we have lots of events in our downtown, starting with Coffee with a Cop on Friday night, October 7th at 6 p.m. at Picante Kimbaya on Main Street. On Saturday, October 8th in the afternoon, there's a block party for Star of Bethlehem Church's new Reverend Sean Jones on Spring at Broad Street starting at noon. Saturday night, the Columbus Lodge is hosting their annual Italian feast from 1, I said Saturday night, but it's actually Saturday day into night, 1 to 10 p.m. at Market Square. Good music, good food, and good fun, with Miss Italia New York making an appearance. On Friday through Sunday, the Fishing on Henry's Hudson is the multimedia through Sunday, Fishing on Henry's Hudson is the multimedia celebration of Henry Gourdines at the Ossining Arts Council at Steamer Firehouse, 117 Main Street, and Friday and Saturday nights it's at 8, Sunday it's at 3, all through October. Finally, next weekend there will be a blood drive on Saturday, October 15th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Ossining Community Center to collect for our little Gio, son of Juan Toribio, one of our staff members. Gio's a trooper, but he needs all the help he can get to manage his daunting medical hardship at 4 years old. So hopefully everybody can come out and help him. And one additional, even though I said that was the last one, our local historian Miguel Hernandez, to commemorate National Hispanic Heritage Month, will present the Puerto Rican soldier, America's Foreign Legionnaire, at the Community Center on Wednesday, October 12th at 7:30 p.m. Please remember to register to vote and or apply for an absentee ballot if you will be out of town on November 8th. We have a very important election coming up, so make sure to exercise your right to vote. We have forms available at Town and Village Hall in the clerk's office on the first floor or on the third floor in the supervisor's office at 16 Croton Avenue. Anybody else have any announcements?
I have a question about your announcement.
Okay.
What's this on? If you have a heart on your license, you are registered for the donor.
That's true.
If you think you've signed the back, but you do not have a heart on your license, you still need to go and sign up.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's where I wanted to clarify.
You got it correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. So tonight we have a shorter work session than we anticipated for this evening, as our planning consultant David Stolman is unable to be here. He had a little injury today and he's out. So we will begin as scheduled with a conversation with the Briarcliff Little League regarding a field at Ryder Park, primarily used by Briarcliff, for which they wish to make a donation to the town for clay and I believe bases. So if you, Greg or Danny, either one of you or both of you want to come up to the microphone and just tell us what you're proposing, that would be awesome.
Sure. Very simply, what we're proposing is we want to cut this field for 50-70 as well as 46-60. Regular Little League is 46-60, 46 feet from the pitcher's rubber to the home plate and 60 feet from home plate to first base. As the kids get older, 11s and 12s, we expand and we start playing 50-70, which is obviously you move the rubber back 4 feet for them and we move the bases back. Okay, it gets them more prepared for modified in high school. So we've been playing that, but we've had to play, as you can see in my hat, a Briarcliff Croton team we combined with Croton because we don't have a field to do that. So we want to pay for all the material to be able to do that, to cut Ryder Park, our side of Ryder Park, that the town of Ossining, runs, and expand it to 50-70, which means cutting out the infield a little bit, putting a new rubber in, putting new bases and home plate, and new clay.
So you're seeing the bigger kids would be playing on this field now too versus
No,
just the little
it's
kids?
still 11 and 12s, but when we play travel, we would be able to use that field as well for the 50-70. Because right now we cannot use that field. We don't have a field to use.
So you want to make it bigger or smaller?
It'll be both.
But right now it's too small or too big?
No, right now we just don't have the field is fine. The dimensions of the field. We don't have to touch the fences. We just have to expand the infield,
Baseline.
the
But if you
baseline.
expand, I guess what I'm asking is, are you going to have people hitting farther?
No, the same age kids.
Same age kids?
Same age kids, 11s and 12s. They still
Okay.
play on 200 feet fences, which is the regulations for 12-year-olds.
Okay.
So it's just we're expanding. The pitchers are going to pitch from 4 feet back farther, which again prepares them for 7th grade and 8th grade when they start to play modified in high school. The bases are 10 feet farther, which, makes it, you have to run a little farther.
Got it.
And it prepares the kids basically for high school ball, for modified in high school ball.
Wait, Kim.
You have to come
Yeah,
up.
Okay,
to
why don't you
Right.
just, both of you stand up to the microphone?
Can I
Can
ask?
let me,
Yeah,
can
go
I
ahead.
go in? So this is going to be available for all 10 and 12-year-old teams, all within, you know, like the Briarcliff ones, the Ossining ones, and the travel ones will all be able to use this expanded, longer field, or is it just for this one particular team?
No, it's not one particular team. No, it's any Briarcliff team that uses that field, and if Ossining, or you have a field, you use the Nelson Park, you use your field, you have the middle field there. If you needed to use our field,
If they needed a different configuration for their 11 to 12-year-olds or whatever, if there's any team that's at that same age group would be able to use this.
that field, correct.
Okay.
Sure. Yes.
You guys don't have any other fields in any of your other parks for baseball?
No, we have McCrum, we have Neighborhood. Those are all for smaller kids.
I see. So,
Those additional fields are also designated for soccer
Soccer,
and
lacrosse.
lacrosse. This field that we use in Ossining, the Ryder Field, is only
It's
designated,
only designated for
baseball.
baseball.
so that's the only field that Briarcliff has that's designated solely to baseball?
Solely for baseball.
Correct.
And all the other parks that you have that have them are for the younger kids?
Right.
Okay. And so you're saying that this will not change, will not incur a need for change of the fence?
No.
Okay.
No, all it does is they're gonna cut a field, part of the grass back so that the baselines can go longer. And then there's gonna be there's gonna be two bases. There's gonna be one that's the 46-60, that you go from home plate to first base is 60 feet. And then that'll be removable, so then when you go to the 50-70, that base will be removed, and then the older kids will be using the 50-70. And that'll be the same instance with the pitching
There's a
mound.
spike that they go for 4660. We remove that. You flip it around, blocks, you put grass over, you put dirt over it so it's safe so the kids don't trip. And then you expand it to the 70 when the older kids play on it, when we play the travel. But now all the kids can play that 50-70 travel, talent-wise. That's what we have, those are the travel teams that'll play in that, are playing that 50-70.
Say that again, I'm sorry, because
Travel teams
all
are
the
usually-
travel teams,
All
meaning,
travel teams will be playing, all the 11s and 12 travel teams will be playing that 50-70.
right, so all the travel teams that play, so all the Briarcliff Ossining travel teams can play on that field
Yes.
then?
Correct.
Okay.
So right now, let's just back up. So one of the issues that I'm aware of, and I haven't been around for a lot of these conversations, obviously, that have happened in the past. I know that there was some challenges over time with the batting cages and who got to use the batting cages and who got to use this. And one of the things that I think we're concerned about is that everybody plays nice in the sandbox. How again, you are making a donation to the town, and while this field has been designated basically for the general use of Briarcliff Little League,
Right.
it's my understanding, I did have a conversation with somebody who's captain one of the travel teams in Ossining, that you do right now, if if you, for example, needed to play in Nelson and there was availability, you would be able to do that, and vice versa, if when the Ossining travel teams, and sometimes they're combined, I guess, right? Needed to play in, on this field, and there wasn't already a scheduled game, and it was available.
Use that field.
They would use that field. But in terms of the scheduling, you do that through Chris Soy, Recreation Director, correct? And he kind of oversees the scheduling of all the fields at this point?
Actually, through Mario Velardo is what we do our schedule. We set it up.
Oh,
We
you do
send it
through
to Chris
Mario,
Soy,
okay.
so he knows. And that since we use it solely, if anybody needs it, then they come to us and say, what's your schedule? As a matter of fact, and with the travel teams are a little different, okay?
Okay.
Because I set up that schedule.
I see.
And then like Mark Bernstein, who I know, who's the 11-year-old we play against, okay? And I have a couple of his kids on my team now because Ossining doesn't have a team in the fall, so I combined, some of those kids are on my team. He could come to me and say, Greg, we can't use Nelson Park Friday night. I go, no game, it's all yours. Plain and
it.
simple. So,
So it's been working, there hasn't been a
Oh, yeah.
lot of,
No.
okay. So, and again, that would be this, is there now gonna be more competition for this one field because it now serves these, multiple purposes?
Skill levels.
no,
Skill levels.
it's still the same, the one team using it unless,
Same kid, it's the same age
the
kids.
same age
Same
kids, 10
kids.
to
Different,
12.
not necessarily
The same kids, just instead of playing up in Croton, we'd be allowed to play in Briarcliff now because we'd have a field. And again, it would be an added field for Ossining teams if Nelson Park wasn't available or something else wasn't available, you have an added park for the Ossining team to use as well.
Right, okay. And have you had any conversation with Chris Soy about this or not?
I haven't. I've tried to reach him. I haven't.
Okay, you haven't had any conversation with him about this.
Maybe you can have a conversation.
I think I just want to have, an additional conversation, maybe, I don't know, needs to come to our board. What's the timing of this for you in terms of when it would?
We'd like to get it done by the spring.
By
But
the spring.
it's, as Mario told me, it's a 3 or 4 day process, or maybe a
Okay.
week, so it's not.
Okay,
If they can get it done in the fall, but, that might not happen, that depends on the weather,
okay,
Whatever works best.
Whatever
for-
works, yeah.
Okay,
So
all
it's,
right.
we don't have any drop dead date or
Right.
whatever. I shouldn't use that term, but
okay,
it's not. We'd like to get it done in
Okay.
a couple of weeks, but I understand we need to speak with this and make sure all the bases are touched, no pun intended. Little humor once in a while.
a lot of puns.
Yes. But we want to make sure everybody's involved with this, and it's just not one decision being made here, and then we go down the hall and somebody else is like, well, I wasn't involved in that. So whatever we
Okay.
need to do, we want to make sure we cover all that.
Okay, all right, great. So maybe what we
Thank
can do
you.
is outside of the, this table, we'll try to set up a meeting with you two and Chris Soy,
So,
Mario,
Yeah, I've been trying to
myself.
reach, and when I do reach him, I'll,
Yeah, and maybe somebody, I did have a brief conversation with Greg Galiff before the meeting, because he had seen it on the agenda and wanted to know if there was a need for them to come, and, just kind of gave me the parameters and a little bit of the, how it all goes, and it didn't seem like there was any issue whatsoever, as far as I could tell from,
I don't think so. It's just
But I
the
don't-
one question I have.
I
is
just thought it was clay. I didn't realize that it was
it's clay.
this recutting of the
Yeah, you just have
bases
to
and
move,
stuff like
you
that,
have to
so.
cut some of the outfield, you have to expand the
clay.
infield, just so you can go to 70 feet.
Yeah.
For the extra room for the baseline.
Right,
Pending that everything gets agreed and we're all good on both sides. I think right now, currently, the agreement, from what I understand, I've never seen this agreement, is, I believe Briarcliff has 3 years on it, or I'm trying to figure out, because we're gonna invest $9,000, and I'm trying to figure out,
Okay.
before we commit to $9,000 or $10,000,
Right.
that the agreement still goes going
I
forward.
don't remember seeing the date on that agreement,
Okay.
but, I'm happy to pull that up and see if we can get a copy of the agreement also when we have that meeting.
Sure.
And again, this
Okay.
field has been, had this agreement since I played Little League, which is on this field, which is a long
Couple
time
years
ago.
Just a couple years ago.
Yeah, just a couple years ago.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That would be great.
okay, fantastic. All right. Anybody else have any questions for these gentlemen?
I don't know what agreement we're talking about.
There's an agreement, I believe, with the Briarcliff Little League that
we use.
spells out the terms where it says that
That field, that's all,
they use the field
for our majors teams.
and this process of sharing, et cetera, so. Okay, fantastic.
'Cause it was there.
yeah.
I was around
I
when it
thought
was
that we
agreed upon,
pulled it
so
for
I remember it.
so many meetings.
Thank you.
Okay.
I thought we
He
did.
said
Okay.
72. 20 years ago was not 72.
Sure it is. No.
No, but he said it was a 3-year agreement.
He
Seems like
said
you guys
that
were both-
agreement's
A
been
3-year
around
left.
since he was in Little.
3 years
Yeah,
left.
but he said there were three.
No, not the written agreement, but it says there's been an agreement, I don't know what was ever.
Oh, I see.
So,
They first
yeah.
made the
Sounds to
Jerry
me like there
Jesse
was an
Collier
agreement
Field
that
in
was
1970.
Like had
Yeah,
another
I
few
know.
years on it. that-
That's what I heard, and, because
It was
we're
a
gonna
five-
put
I
in
believe
this
it was a
money.
5-year agreement that I think Art signed, the previous president.
Okay,
Yeah, we just want to continue the existing, and see, or clarify it for more or
Okay.
less, to make sure everybody's good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
sounds good. All right, so we'll pull the agreement. We'll set up a meeting. Do I have your, I don't think I have your contact information. If you could just write your.
Sure, I'll write it down for you.
information down, that would be great. And then we'll get back in touch with you, and hopefully we can come back to the board with everybody on board, and we'll go forward from there.
Thank you very much.
Very much. You guys good? No more questions, right? All right, fantastic. All right, so that's my notes. All right. Once again, thank you for coming out. Okay, have a good night. So next, we are going to be talking about a number of fees that our department heads would like us to consider changing before our January 2017 reorganizational meeting. We have information from our town clerk about cabaret fees, from our tax receiver about foreclosure fees, from our building inspector about a building permit fee, and we will also be discussing setting a taxi cab fee and a credit card fee that we must charge for over-the-counter transactions. We just recently got those credit card machines that we talked about some time back and that are in our clerk's office. They're going to be at our building department at some point in the near future, at our finance department, and our cemetery. And as you are all aware, we have to actually recoup the fee, the credit card transaction fee, in addition to whatever the fee is that we're also, so that taxpayer dollars are not paying for that, just the person who's come in to pay for whatever the associated fee is. We'll then have a short special meeting to consider a tax payment plan request from a taxpayer, and then I will request that we adjourn into executive session. So, can we just get to our fees? And Maddie, I'm going to ask you if you could lead that discussion.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. So I passed out quite a few pieces of paper to you at the beginning of this meeting. So,
Some of them might have gotten stuck at me, I think.
okay. So the first thing I want you to grab is the fattest document. That is the current iteration of the town's fee schedule. So that's what we're going to be working off of. So make sure that you grab that first. So while everyone is sorting that out, as the supervisor just mentioned, the credit card fee is not something that we currently account for in our fee schedule because we've never had to before. So it was suggested that we include this in our fee schedule right away so that no one can say that they, didn't have any notice about this. So it's 3% on the transaction. So for example, if someone comes into the clerk's office and has to pay for something that's $100, the clerk will take their credit card, swipe it for $100, and then we'll do a second swipe for $3. So we just basically want to make sure that that is in the town's fee schedule, and it's the same deal in the village. It's the 3%.
Where is that on this?
It's not in the fee schedule yet because we've never had to use it before. So that's actually going to be a new line that we're going to add. It goes alphabetically, so it'll probably be on page 3 under cabaret licenses.
It would say credit card.
It'll say credit card, and it'll say 3% per transaction.
I'm sorry, I must have missed that. So this is just for the cabaret?
No. She's just saying where, you said where will it go? And it will go here. Credit card.
Got
It'll
it.
be its own separate line.
You're writing on my thing.
I can make you a new one.
And you know where it's going to go.
Okay.
I just wrote on mine. You want mine? It's neater. Okay.
All right, so that's an easy one for which you have no backup documentation. You'll just have to take my word for it. The next one is going to be on page 3 of your fee schedule. It's right in the middle of the page there, and it says legalization of work performed without permits. You have a memo here dated today from John Hamilton, who's our building inspector, who basically is sort of talking about the fact that this fee was brought into existence by the town board about 2 years ago in order to have some sort of teeth for people who did construction basically without having pulled a building permit. So as we were going through the reval over the last 2 years, former supervisor Sue Donnelly said, let's grant people amnesty. They can come in, they can get the permit, they can get it legalized, but we're not going to really penalize them. As you can see, the penalty is pretty severe. All fees are tripled, and then in addition, the building inspector can use his discretion to apply between a $500 and $1,000 penalty. So John's recommendation is that we continue the amnesty through January 1st, but so this isn't really a change to the fee schedule. It's something that already exists, but he suggests that we make it, pretty clear to the public that going up to January 1st, that they're sort of forewarned that this is something that we're going to be imposing going forward.
I have a question. So today I heard of somebody who said that there was work that was done in their house prior to the time that they bought it, and yet they bought it and nothing was noted, right? There was no issue at the closing with respect to any CO not being done. Then they were reassessed through Tyler, and there was nothing noted. And now something's being noted because of the phase-in thing. Mm-hmm. So my question is, with respect to the tripling of fees, when we talk about work already done in the area in question is being used oftentimes for years, are we checking that it isn't the current owner who did this work, that this was something before, because how do we figure that out?
I don't know that you'd be able to.
Well, and that's,
Well, in
I
some
mean, I
cases
think
there's-
that's part of the,
So in some cases, there are letters and files that indicate that, that a building inspector has seen work done to a house and it was basically signed off on, and there's plans, right? So it indicates what the plans are. And when you close on a house, you have to have your CVOs in order.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
there's a decent amount of checks and balances for something like that to happen. Seems to be pretty outside the norm for a house to be sold without the improvements being picked up, and then for the reval to happen without the improvements being picked up. Generally, I think that seems to be very much the exception as opposed to the rule.
so what is the recourse for someone who might be an outlier in terms of this happening and being hit with, what's their recourse?
I don't know that I'm able to speak to that. I mean,
No,
that would be a
I'm-
question that we can ask
I
them.
think my point is I completely agree with having people be penalized for doing work without permits. It's not a good idea. It could be unsafe. We should be going through the process. I get it. My question is, what happens to the person who maybe, it happens where the work was done previously and it wasn't that person who did it? And because there's grandfathering all over the place. I think what we found through the reassessment is there was all kinds of work that was done years ago, and that those COs were not done. Like, we did find some of that, and those aren't the current owners. It's not like I built the deck and I redid my deck and I didn't get the permit. This is stuff that a lot of it happened a long time ago.
I believe that's probably part of the reason why the prior supervisor took the approach that she did. And my understanding, or, I can't speak to the building inspector's rationale, and perhaps it would be better to have him come and speak to you personally, would be that now that the reval is done, that should, for the vast majority of the cases, have been resolved. And so I guess in deciding this board whether you want to take this approach is whether that outlier situation is worth not imposing these penalties for the vast majority of the cases where the situation would be that they did not pull the permits. But again, I think that's probably something that the building inspector should speak to if you're concerned about it.
Yeah, and I also think I'd like him to come and speak to what are the, and maybe, this might be in code, but what are the things that cause, so for instance, if I repave my driveway, I don't know that I need a permit for that. So
People are presumed to know. I mean, there's a presumption that, if you're supposed to know what the law is, and that applies criminally, and, if you're not sure, you're supposed to look into it. You're not just supposed to,
And
put
we-
on blinders and, hope it doesn't affect you.
right, and we have it clearly stated is my point.
Again,
Specifically as to pavement or as to
No.
any specific
Generally,
activity?
do we have it specifically laid out? What are the things by which you need to get a permit? That seems like a simple, silly question.
I would say if you go on to the building department page on the town website, it has every single permit sort of like
do I
like
need a
hot
permit
links laid out. So if you did have a question, you could just pop on there. And I also know, I'm sure Sandy and Margaret in the building department would tell you they get phone calls all day long.
No,
Hey,
I'm
gonna,
thinking of two
put in a
different-
railing. Do I need to pull a permit?
Two different situations. One, somebody went to cut down a tree and they looked at the Briarcliff code because in the town we have places that are in Briarcliff and they didn't know which code to look at. And it happened to be that it really was the town code that covered it, not the Briarcliff code. So I'm just in terms of trying to figure that out. Sometimes people don't know. And the second thing is there was something that was completely different out of our jurisdiction that happened where they went to triple a fee for, not in the town, for paving a parking lot. And that wasn't necessarily something that you needed a permit for because you weren't changing any of the culverts or the, right. So I'm just asking whether our code is very clear on what are the things you need a permit for and not necessarily, I just don't want to trip people up. If we're going to start charging lots of money, I want us to be really clear.
Haven't we been doing this all along?
No,
seems we
haven't
have
been
not.
doing this. We haven't been doing this. This is the thing that we were saying. The board voted to include this on the fee schedule. But at the time that it was proposed by our building inspector, the board decided we're not gonna enforce it until the reval is over. Now that we're at the other side of the reval, and we do have a better understanding of the entire inventory and what it looks like, he's saying he believes that now is the time to start to enforce it, to give people amnesty until January 1st, and then, starting in January, enforce this,
It should be, I think it's understood that you don't do this, but if it was done like she was saying before, somebody went, before I bought my house, you can't hold me responsible if I didn't know that it was, illegal to do whatever it is, at the time.
right, so this is, again, why we said we'll bring John back in to talk about what are the ramifications when you find out that something.
'Cause I think that could cause a lot of trouble
What's
for
the,
somebody.
the notion of grandfathering in, how do you know, what,
Well, perhaps we could look at the code. I don't know if I haven't looked at this issue before. I know there was reference to the penalties being in the discretion of the building inspector. Maybe there can be some sort of appeals process, whereby, if someone feels that, either based upon the several scenarios raised by Councilwoman Jeffrey, either, it wasn't a permit they really had to pull in the first place, or they can establish, that based upon several, oversights, it was something they shouldn't have been made aware of. I mean, that's something we could look into too. Again, I don't know how it's currently worded, but that might be something that could ease your concerns.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm for penalizing people for bad behavior, but I'm also for people having remedies for the small amount of times that maybe somebody gets stuck in something that it really wasn't.
okay.
And the building inspector can probably speak more knowledgeably to how often that actually is the case.
Okay,
Okay.
next
Okay.
one.
We're good?
The next one you will also find on page 3, which is for the cabaret license fee and renewal. So you have an email from Town Clerk Marianne Roberts where she lays out what the town currently charges, which you can see there in your fee schedule, and she lays out what the village charges as well. She would like to see the town boost the annual fee from $100 to $200. In addition, if you apply after July 1st, it's sort of prorated. So right now that fee is $25 after July 1st. She recommends that be raised to $100. The reason why time is sort of the essence here is she's going to be sending out renewal forms for our 3 businesses who currently have cabaret licenses to make sure that they're ready to go in January. So she wants to be able to advise them in advance of the new fees.
I don't know why I cannot find.
Why?
It's right here on page 3.
Here, no,
No,
here,
no, no,
here.
thank you.
Why is ours so different than the villages? How's that? For a question.
I don't know. I will have to ask Marianne. I don't know how the village process works.
I mean, I guess that's my question is,
I don't think we're gonna find an answer to that.
no, I know, but I'm happy to give it to her. It's clearing that there's a major difference between us, and it's not like, those establishments in the town don't get people from all over. Like,
So, I mean, the thing about it is when you have a cabaret license, you can stay open longer. Generally, oftentimes it goes along with, a liquor license, right, as we've heard. So you're able to, actually collect more money because you're able to serve alcohol, right? So I think that, you may have there may be other things from the town perspective that cause us to actually have to monitor the situation. So it actually makes sense, in my opinion, that it's,
it should be
quite low right now.
I think it should be more.
And I think that, I'm guessing that the town clerk is suggesting that we raise it to $200 instead of $500, which is the village is charging, because we would be doubling it. So,
We'd be
We'd be doubling.
quintupling.
No, we'd be doubling it going 100 to 200, but if we actually tried to get up to where the village was, that's a really
Maybe
steep.
too much of a steep, I can't speak to why it wasn't,
Exactly.
is different than the village, but
Right.
I do think that it's maybe an issue if we move it up really, really high, that it needs to be done incrementally so that we got to the point where we're
That's
closer
my
to the
guess.
village.
Right, and I would
I
say,
think we could go to 300. I mean, we're talking about establishments that are significantly making money. I mean, I'm not, we're not talking about,
I think that they're still small businesses and that you can't underestimate the amount of money it takes to run a small businesses. For the most part, I don't know of any big chains that we're talking about. And I think that doubling is going significantly higher, maybe not in keeping with what we want to do to support our small businesses that really, most of them really struggle. The margin on a restaurant is 3%.
I mean,
Fine.
I also want us to keep in mind there's only 3 businesses
I was
right
just
now in
gonna
the
say,
town
we
who,
have
I mean,
3 businesses, and probably we know, all of us know which ones, because we all approved, I think, their cabaret license at some point this year. So you probably know which ones the 3 of them are, right? One of them most
I
recent.
just noted a stark difference, that's all. I
No,
was
no,
just
no.
trying to figure out the stark difference.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think that's why we're actually here having this conversation to begin with.
Yeah.
So, again, I think that the clerk was saying, well, let's not go, crazy out of
Right,
the,
right
out of the
off
box.
the box.
Let's do something which is incremental, reasonable. To me, it doesn't make any sense that we're charging a quarter of the fee for the second half of the year, when clearly it makes sense to be charging half of the fee for half of the year. So I'm.
She did raise it to half of the year.
Yes. So I'm quite in favor of this personally, which is an incremental jump up. It's in keeping with our village, to have it higher rather than lower, but we're not going 5 times as high as we are right now. So, we're not voting tonight, but if everybody is, generally, we wouldn't be voting until the beginning of the year, but we would have a general
No,
no,
she wants
for
to vote
these,
it
we
now.
would vote now so that she can send out the renewal applications.
Oh, we're voting?
Not tonight, but at the next
Okay,
regular
fine.
meeting.
Okay, fine. Right.
I think an incremental increase is warranted. I agree with going from 25 to 100 because it's half the year for half the price, and 200 may not be where we want to end up in the future, but I think step by step, and maybe it'll give our cabaret businesses an idea that we are going to be more in line with the village, and you should start planning accordingly. Kind of like our phase-in.
Yeah,
No, I'm all for it.
You're good?
Yeah.
okay. Fantastic. Next.
Next, in the same memo, you'll see she also recommended some changes to the dog licensing fees. Time is certainly not of the essence there, but she did include it in the memo. So if the board is okay with that change, we can go ahead and look at that for January, instead of doing that now. Okay?
That seems fine.
Again, they're not huge, but I think it makes a lot of sense that they haven't changed. A lot of these fees have not changed in years.
I'm so sorry. I didn't even know. Somebody after the meeting can explain to me what this dog licensing spaying thing is.
If your dog has been fixed and can no longer produce puppies, you get charged a lesser fee than if they are able to have.
Around and
Because
It's an incentive.
it's an incentive, so there's not a lot of
$3 incentive.
stray dogs.
Really?
Yeah, years ago, nobody tied their dogs up. There were lots of loose wild dogs and cats, as we still have.
yeah.
But
Back in
if
the
you
day.
if you spay them, there's a lot less chance that you're gonna have our animal warden have to deal with the offspring. So it's a lesser fee. It's an incentive to spay and neuter your pets.
So again, it's to go from $10 to $15 for a spayed or neutered dog, and from $18 to $23 for an unspayed, unneutered dog.
Sounds good.
I think that's $7 incentive.
Sounds good.
I'm not loving this one, but I guess there's a license you have to get.
Well, yeah, and it's so that we can also have, I think you license with the name, the tag, you make sure that the dog has all the things that you.
So when it wanders into the police station, they can, make sure to get it to the right
I don't
person.
have a dog, so I don't
Yes.
know all that. I mean, I'm just.
Okay, so we're good with that?
Okay.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I might have to have a talk with my dog.
Okay,
Then I'll let you.
all right.
Do we even have a dog? Yeah. Okay. So next is on, it will go on to page 7 under taxi cabs and limousines. It's not something that we currently have in our fee schedule. We were actually contacted by a resident who depends primarily on taxi cabs for their mode of transportation. And they've been sort of running up against an issue in that when they take a cab from the village to the town, they're charged a certain rate. But if they take it from the town to the village, they're charged a different rate. And we were told the way to remedy this is to add a charge for what is the rate for a taxi cab in the town of Ossining into our fee schedule. So we're basically proposing making it $4.75 just as in the village. So if someone travels from the village to the town or the town to the village, there will be no question but that they're charged $4.75 for that trip.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, what were they charged?
More.
Yeah.
How much more? $9? I'm just wondering.
Probably 5 something.
6, 7, I don't know.
Okay, I'm just wondering if
It
we
was
knew.
just, it was just that it's unclear and it seemed that the taxis were taking advantage of.
So you had to drive from the village to the town and walk home, and it was a problem.
Exactly, something, yeah, it was, you know, again, we're talking about going to the train station and
Okay, and finally, you have a 2-page document from our receiver of taxes. She is recommending, and you'll find this on page 8, about a third of the way down, under tax foreclosure. She is recommending changing the legal and publication fee from $600, as is presently charged, to $700. The rationale being that the town is only allowed to charge what we are charged, so we're not allowed to make a profit on it. However, there are many fewer properties in this upcoming foreclosure. So in order to recoup the money charged by the firm, we have to raise the fee on all of the foreclosed properties in order to still cover that bill. So I guess this has sort of been in flux throughout the last couple years, depending on how many foreclosures are actually in the foreclosure. But she has recommended a change of $700 for this batch coming up.
Seems reasonable.
Okay.
Okay, that's all we got.
all right,
That's
fantastic.
all she wrote.
So, we're doing all that, and now we have a motion to go into a special meeting. That's all we have on the work
That's
session,
it.
correct?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Okay, so we're going into a special meeting. Okay.
I'm gonna take
Discuss a tax payment plan for 120 Croton Avenue.
Are we off the tape? Oh, special meeting, never mind.
I have to take the roll. Councilwoman DeTore,
Present.
Councilwoman Jeffrey,
Present.
Councilman Wiltshire,
Present.
Councilwoman Feldman,
Present.
and Supervisor Levenberg.
Here.
Seeing no one for public comment on agenda items, we'll go into the board resolution. Whereas the town supervisor received a letter dated September 29, 2016, from the owner of the property located at 120 Croton Avenue, tax parcel designation 89.16-7-30, requesting a payment plan to pay the delinquent taxes owed for the property. And whereas the town board, pursuant to Chapter 180, Article 5 of the Ossining Town Code, as authorized by Article 11 of the New York Real Property Tax Law, before entry of a final judgment, may withdraw a parcel for which payment of real property taxes is delinquent from a foreclosure proceeding and enter into an installment agreement for payment of all delinquent taxes, as well as interest and penalties, provided the owner meets the eligibility requirements set forth in local and state law, and the payment plan conforms to the requirements of state and local law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes the receiver of taxes to enter into an installment agreement with this eligible property owner in a form to be approved by the council to the town and subject to the following terms. 1. To the extent the receiver of taxes requires that the property owner make an initial down payment, the down payment shall not exceed $989.94. 2. The property owner shall make subsequent payments on a quarterly basis in equal amounts, except for the final payment, to be agreed upon by the property owner and the receiver of taxes. 3, the term of the payment plan shall not exceed 24 months. And 4, the installment agreement shall comply with all other state and local laws. And be it further resolved, the receiver of taxes is authorized to remove this property from the foreclosure proceeding so long as the property owner makes all payments pursuant to the installment agreement in a timely manner and pays all other taxes when they become due. And be it further resolved, the town board authorizes this installment agreement with the understanding that this sets no precedent going forward for this or any other property.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Now, I would like to have a motion to go into executive session to discuss contracts and potential litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstention? Okay. Once again, I don't think I neglected to mention everybody a happy new year of the Jewish faith, Shana Tova, and I hope that we will not have our regular meeting next Tuesday night because of the Yom Kippur holiday. We will have a short meeting to approve vouchers and pay the bills, right? And approve minutes on Thursday, October 13th at
9
9
a.m.
a.m. In upstairs in our third floor conference room. All right.
I'm gonna be at a conference, so I'll be.
Okay. So I wish you all a good night, and we're now going to go into executive session. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.